and feel free to show us your beautiful faces or not. And I think hopefully other coaches might watch it. It's funny when people volunteer for something, it's kind of how much can you get out of them, you know? I'd love to spend hours training, but I don't have time to do that. And I don't think any of our volunteer coaches do either. So we'll do this, make sure everybody understands the basics, and then we will go for it. So I'll put this on YouTube for anybody who wants to watch it. Kristen's iPhone is really trying hard to get in here. I don't know what's going on. She's got like 2 iPhones now. Okay, so I'm going to go through the notes, and then I'm going to go, what I wrote up and sent to you guys already called the norms. So here's the U15 norms, and we'll go over those, and then we will, I'll see if you have any questions, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about my coaching philosophy when we go through those. So where did they go? U15 norms. There we go. Okay. So that looks like it is big enough to see. All right. So the norm for U15 is 2 1-hour practices a week. And you can do Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, doesn't really matter. I like to usually do Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. I'm actually doing Monday, Friday this year because of some things going on for me on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Fields are just first come, first serve. Whoever wants to use it can. And I've given you 2 6-foot pop-up goals this year, and they came in that little bag. If you didn't get some, I have some in the shed. And that allows you to go anywhere to do practice. So you could, I would say, hey, what about the Castle Park? If they've got younger siblings, they could hang out there while practice is going on, or Crooked River Park's got a lot of green space. Let's see, you need to have 3 things. I mean, this is all just coaching philosophy. Let's see, keep them moving. So here's some coaching philosophy for you. Philosophy, I think that's right. Hey, all right, spelled that right. So one thing I would say is keep them moving. So young coaches who are maybe inexperienced are going to feel this need to control every player at every moment and kind of witness what they're doing to see if they're doing it right. And that's just not a realistic option. I mean, it could be if you put them all in line and had one kid do one thing at a time, but super boring for the other kids. And so another philosophy I have is player experience. I'm going to write positive player experience. Positive player experience is a top priority. And so when I was a young coach, all I cared about was winning. And what the problem with that is that you don't necessarily care about every kid then. So what's more important, winning or that every kid feels valued and has a positive experience? And I would say every kid feeling valued and having a positive experience is more important than winning. So, I mean, that's just kind of my thoughts on it, but one way to make them have a positive experience is to keep them moving and having every kid doing every drill every time instead of just watching one kid at a time or focusing on only a few kids. I don't think many coaches are going to do that, but so make it a priority whatever you're doing as a coach, that the kid, everybody's engaged, everybody's moving, everybody's doing it together. There can be circuits where kids stand for 30 seconds and then they go do something and they stand somewhere else for 30 seconds, but and then they come back, and rotate. Circuits are cool, but in general, try to avoid kids just standing around. And part of the reason for that is so they have a great experience. Part of the reason for that is player development. Player development is more important than winning. So winning is good. We want to produce winners. I don't think there's anything wrong with desiring to win, but winning shouldn't eclipse that every kid matters, that every kid's in a different place and is going to develop differently. And so we want to focus on player development rather than winning. Not that we don't want to win. I feel like there's something else I put in this on my last one. I don't remember what it was now though. So those are kind of some key things that I think matter as a coach. So what does that look like practically? So here's 3 things. Here's the structure of a practice in my mind. start with dynamic warm-up. So a dynamic warm-up is a way of warming up while learning how to play soccer. So warming up your muscles and learning to play soccer at the same time. And so one example of this would be just dribbling. So what I like to do, like for my dynamic warm-up, I almost always start with all the kids on one side of the field, just along that sideline. And then I have them, I pretty much always start the same way. Everybody's in front of their ball, and then put this foot on the ball. Now put that foot on the ball, and now go faster. And they start jumping like this. And then I usually tell them, okay, now I want you to slowly walk forward and touch the ball every time you take a step. And suddenly they're dribbling, and every time they touch the ball, they're dribbling the ball. And so they're learning to use both feet. As they get older, as they get more developed, you might have them roll the ball forward, okay? And then you might have them pull the ball backwards. But just kind of like some dynamic movements where their knees are coming up, and now there's blood going to their hamstrings and going to their quads and their hip flexors. And then another thing is what's called shielding. And so they might put their foot on top of the ball and kind of drag the ball with them and hop on one foot and never really let the other foot touch the ball, and just never let that foot that's dragging the ball ever touch the ground. And so you can shield the ball sideways, you can shield the ball backwards, you can shield the ball forwards. It's called shielding because in a game, you could potentially put your foot on top of the ball and not let the guy who's guarding you get to the ball, because you roll the ball and move the ball and keep your back to him the whole time. And so sometimes that's a useful skill in soccer. Another thing would be what we call soft toss. This is a great one. So soft toss is like you have them pair up. Okay, so they've done a few things and rolled the ball a few ways, and you know, maybe a few more dribbling skills would be like hitting the ball with the inside of your foot as you run from one sideline to the next, and then hitting the ball with the outside of your foot as you run from one sideline to the next. Hitting the ball with your laces. Those are all different ways to dribble the soccer ball and start to kind of run and jump and warm up your legs. Soft toss is going to be the next level because it's going to make you stretch and move a little bit more. And you pair up, and you can actually do this while running back and forth, but I wouldn't start with that. But if you watch like the high school boys team, that's what they do. But one guy has the ball and he throws the ball to his teammate's right foot. Softly tosses the ball to his teammate's right foot. And then his teammate is going to hit the ball with his laces, bam. And then it goes right back to his teammate. In a perfect world, probably won't at first. And then his teammate goes, gets the ball, do it again, boom, boom. You get 5 times where a soft toss is given to the foot, and then the foot returns the ball to the teammate. And now we did the right foot, let's do the left foot. And so 5 tosses to the laces on the left foot. And try to hit it back to your teammate, softly back to him. And so in about, 30 seconds, you can touch the ball 5 times with your left foot and then touch the ball 5 times with your right foot. And that was just with the laces. Now you can go to the insole or the heel and sideways hit the ball and do the same thing. And then you can go to the thighs and take it off the thigh and then tap it again with the foot. And 5 times off the right thigh, 5 times off the left thigh, 5 times off the chest, 5 times off the head. And you can even use your shoulder, and they can start hitting the ball with both shoulders, or you can get really funky and have this like sideways. I don't know if you guys have seen people hit the ball like that, where like boom, hit like that. But you can hit the ball in a number of different ways back to your teammate, and then he just gives you a soft toss right back. So maybe for 2 minutes, you're just working every part of your teammate's body, hitting the ball back, and then you switch. And now the guy who was just hitting the ball repeatedly is now throwing the ball softly to his teammate, tossing it to the just right spot. And I usually start from the feet and work up. And so that's, I think, a great way to get a lot of touches. That's the other thing I was going to say for coaching philosophy. So this is underlined here. Some thoughts on coaching philosophy. Another one is get lots of touches in little time. So the more times you can do something, the more you're likely to learn it. 27 times to learn something, or 10,000 times to learn something, depending on who you talk to. So to master it. And so try to do lots of repetitive touches through soft tosses. So all of that I just talked about is part of dynamic warm-up. So dynamic warm-up is what I would call the first part of a practice. And after you do some dynamic warm-ups, and if you could type in soccer dynamic warm-up drills, YouTube, you can find all kinds of interesting things. Then I would move on to passing drills. Mostly I would spend your time on passing in U15. I have one, I don't know if I'll find a YouTube video to send to you, and it's called Gates. And it's just, if you want to come to my U15 practice from 5:30 to 7, I could totally show you Gates. So this is a way to teach kids the give and go. Give and go. This is if you could learn give and go, like this is the one thing I'm going to highlight today as I'm talking. If you could teach kids the give and go in U15 soccer, they're going to be great soccer players as a team. I mean, you know, that's the beginning of playing as a team. It's basically this guy passes to that guy. He gives, and then he goes. And then this guy, as soon as he gets that ball, he just sends it right in front to where this guy is running. And there was a player who they just dribbled around or passed around. It's the same thing in basketball, give and go. It's a basketball thing. It's a soccer thing. And if you can develop a team who just learns to pass around the defenders, you will develop a successful soccer team. And so I'm using one right now that I just learned called Gates. And these little gates they pass through. And I don't know if it's online. The high school boys soccer coach showed it to me, and I just think it's amazing. So, but I would spend time on passing. I would learn some drills for passing. Another one that I've been doing is called long shot. You might find that if you Google it. Basically, right in that same position in soft toss where they're right next to each other, facing each other, back it up 20 yards, 15 yards, and have them pass it or shoot it to their teammate. And so they're learning to hit a long pass. And then if the teammate, if it's still in the air, this is how we play it. If it's still in the air, and then your teammate is able to touch it with their chest or their head or their legs or their feet, then we're going to count that as a point. So they're learning, one, to get the ball into the air, like to really get under the ball and like, you know, hit the ball far. And then they're learning to receive the ball, the other guy is. And so every time a guy sends it and the guy receives it all in the air, that's a victory. That's a good part of soccer, is being able to do those two things. We're going to call that a point for this team. And I have, you know, about 10 players. So I'll have 5 teams of 2 competing against each other. And I'll tell them whoever gets to 5 points first wins, and everybody else has to do 5 push-ups. And just giving them a little incentive to want to beat the other kids on their team. 5 successful, I'm just going to write this down. 5 successful passes in the air that are received wins. I can't spell anything. So that's a great, you know, it's not like the whole practice. It's just, you know, every day for 5 or 10 minutes that we have a practice, we'll probably do that, or most of the time. So that's another great example of a good passing drill. And then I like to play some fun things at the end. And so I'll go what they call a small-sided game, where the field is small. I mean, our whole season is small-sided games. But that's why I gave you those 6-foot pop-up goals, is so you could pass, learn to go like 4-on-4 and learn to pass a lot. I put cones around the 6-foot goals and tell them, like in the center in front of the 6-foot goals, tell them, hey, you can't go inside that space. And so it's really just going to be like, it's not some guy, you know, it's not a big goal. So it's not some guy standing in front of the goals blocking every ball. It's really just learning how to pass quickly around the defenders, and then put a quick goal, put a quick ball on the ground into the goal. And so small-sided games are fun, you know, and that's why you need pennies. And if you don't have any pennies, just let me know. You can come. I coach from 4:30 to 7 on Mondays and Fridays. You can come by, the shed will be open. You can come take a few pennies out of there. If you're a coach, you are allowed in the shed. Also, sharks and minnows is actually fun, even with older kids. I wouldn't play it every time, but sharks and minnows, everybody's a minnow. And if their ball gets touched by the shark, there's one shark, then they become a shark as well. And usually I have the shark have to hit their ball with his ball. You might start with 2 or 3 sharks, but it just sort of eventually will always end, because one kid, eventually they'll get a second kid, 2 kids, they'll get 4 kids, 4 kids, get 8 kids, and so on. So they're just, you guys have all played this, I'm sure. You just start on one side, try to get to the other side, except you have a soccer ball. And so you're trying to dribble your soccer ball to the other side without one of the sharks hitting you with their ball, your ball with their ball. That's kind of a fun game. Freeze tag is another fun game. I wouldn't spend too much time on freeze tag at this age, but they do still probably enjoy it. If you get frozen by the freezer, you have to pick up your ball, put it over your head, spread your legs out, and then one of your teammates will dribble their ball through your legs, and then you're unfrozen. So those are a couple of fun ones, like U10. The kids just eat that stuff up. But just scrimmaging, I think, is great at the end, and learning how to pass together and getting some chances to shoot. This is like the 6th one of these I've done. My brain's a little fried. I apologize if, well, anybody, the two people who are here, if you want to ask any questions, I'd be happy to answer your questions. I'm going to keep going though, unless you do. The higher priority is that everybody has a good time. Kids learn to respect adults. We learn to treat their teammates with respect. They learn to work hard, and that, there's this thing in education called a growth mindset. And I think this is important in soccer too. It's not that you're a bad soccer player. It's that you're a bad soccer player right now. Let's see how they throw the word yet in education into this. So I'm not a good soccer player. Some kid might say, you say, oh, you're not a good soccer player yet. You have to have this belief that if you put in effort, that you will get better. And I would try to change a kid's mindset on that. If they just have it set, they can't learn things. No, you can learn things, you can get better, you can improve. So just having a positive attitude and encouraging kids to work hard and develop and get better. And, with COVID, we have more kids out for soccer than ever before. And it's because parents want their kids to get outside and interact with other kids. And so part of it's about being great soccer players and developing skill, but part of it's just about getting outside and interacting with other humans again, and having friends and joking around with each other, and, feeling some positive vibes. And so as the coaches, let's also make sure that we're trying to help the mental health crisis that's happening right now in kids. So winning is a priority. We want to develop winners, but it is a second priority to player development. I think I said this up here already. So those are my thoughts on running practices and coaching in general. Here are a few specifics about games. Games are 1 hour and 30 minutes. They're actually not. You are on the field for 1 hour and 30 minutes. Your games are actually only 70 minutes, not 90 minutes. And then you get a 10-minute halftime. So in high school, they play 2 40-minute halves. In U8, they play 20-minute halves. U10, 25-minute halves. U12, 30-minute halves. So U15, 35-minute halves. We're just trying to slowly get these kids more comfortable with playing longer and longer duration. If there's some reason that this, I could see, given that we're playing small-sided games, if you want to agree with the other coach and the referee at the beginning, hey, let's just go 2 30-minute halves. If you guys need to get done a little faster, that's totally fine. But this is the standard. You'll use a size 5 ball. Now, players. So for you 15 boys, I think we have enough players to play 6v6. Maybe even 7v7. And I don't have a strong opinion like it has to be 7v7. In high school, they play 11 against 11. We go smaller so we can have enough teams to not play the same team every weekend. And so if 7v7 is possible and each have a sub still, that's great. If kids are gone because of hunting and whatever, COVID, 6v6 is fine too, even 5v5. U15 girls, I think you're probably going to be playing 5v5 sometimes. Just whatever you got, make it work. If one team has 7 and one team has 4, you can play one of your players on their team and still play 5v5. Yeah, Kristen.
So if we were to do 6v6, that's including the goalie, right? So 5 on the field and 1 goalie?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And yeah, I'd love to play 7v7 with U15, but I don't know that we have enough players, especially in the girls league. So whatever works is what works. We're rolling with the punches this year. I'm going to explain the offside rule. throw-ins. Let me just mention that before I draw something. So throw-ins, both feet on the ground, ball behind the head, and then throw. So if they kind of halfway take it up and throw it, like this, barely gets over their head, above their head, that's not a throw-in. And we're not going to give them second chances. They have been learning, if they've been playing. In U8, they get second chances. In U10, they get second chances for a few weeks, and then they don't. U12, no second chances. We think they should be able to do it by U12, and really U10. They are allowed to use their head, finally. If this is your first time in U15, they can actually use their head. And that doesn't have to do with me. It has to do with liability and big organizations who make the rules for youth soccer. And we're going to go with whatever they say. So when some kid gets hurt, we don't get sued. So finally, we get to use our head in U15. And a good use of the head, somebody asked me about this, is right here. So I have a nice bald head for you to see. So right here, not here, but here, right above your eyebrows, what we would call your forehead, where your forehead meets your skull. In this section here, there's like a nice, hard, thick piece of bone. And for some reason, that's the spot where you can control it the best. So teach the kids to hit the ball here. On that game, soft toss, hit it with your head right back to them. Start to learn to control the ball and hit the ball where you want it to go with your head. A fun game with headers in general is how many can you get? Like you can actually control where the ball goes, and you can be like a dolphin, that balances a ball on their head, only you're bouncing it in the air. And, I've probably gotten 10 or 12 in a row like that. And so that's a fun thing for the kids to develop a skill in. A direct kick means the ball can go directly into the goal. So this is wrong. I apologize if this was in here in the U15 rules. Headers are allowed in U15. In U12, they're not. And that's why this is here, because I made the U12 one and then amended it, but didn't amend it correctly. But just so you know, the headers are allowed, so get rid of that. But an indirect kick is a kick where they have to pass it first. It has to hit somebody else before it goes in the goal. And that is usually only if somebody gets hurt and someone had possession, but they had to blow the whistle. So then they'll give them an indirect kick, just kind of get going again. And there's kind of a courtesy in soccer. A lot of times when someone gets hurt and there's an indirect kick, whoever has the indirect kick will just kind of kick it to the other team and give them, on the other end of the field, a chance to bring it back out. But that's not that important. So you don't even really need to know what an indirect kick is, since headers are allowed. This is a strange rule, no punting. So the field is small, and so punting the ball just kind of ruins the game. It's just a bunch of goalies and a bunch of cherry pickers at that point. And so we don't allow punting. Goalies can throw the ball, and honestly, if you have a pretty big kid, he can throw that ball pretty far. And even that is almost too much sometimes. But it teaches the kid the strategy to build out. There is no build out line in U15, so don't worry about what that means either. It's a rule you don't have to worry about. It's kind of a strange rule for younger kids. So I didn't do a great job making these notes. They have a lot of the U12 rules in them. So, but you do want to encourage, so this encourages teams to play the ball on the ground out of the back of the field. This is why there's a no punting rule. So don't just boot the ball. Instead, like give it to a defender or throw it down the field. And you kind of get in the other team's head and can do both that way. Because if you can give the ball to a defender and he can just start dribbling down the field with the ball, that's good. And then he learns to pass to one guy and he passes to another guy. We're trying to teach these kids to learn how to play soccer, which involves passing. At the end of the game, I'm totally fine with them hitting elbows. They have been running right next to each other the whole game. I don't think they're going to give each other COVID by hitting elbows after they've played soccer with their team the whole game. There should be a team parent for every team who organizes a snack schedule. Eat your snacks after the game so that your kids don't throw up during the game if they eat it at halftime. All right, I am going to go to, where is this? The other Johnny, and I'm going to say, I have to stop sharing first. So there's the other Johnny. The other Johnny is my cell phone, and he is going to show us offsides. So spotlight, there we go. Okay, so I want to go over the offsides rule for you, just so you understand. This is an important rule in soccer that prevents people from just being cherry pickers the whole game. So here's a soccer field. I'll give you a little background on soccer fields as well. So there's a half line, and then there's a circle, And that circle is for whoever has possession and is going to be taking the ball forward. They get to start with the ball and they get to be inside the circle. Then the other team has to be outside the circle. And then this guy might have a player here. He might have a second player here. He might have another player here. And so he kind of has a choice. This little black dot represents the ball. He might have a choice that I'm going to pass it over here to this teammate, or I'm going to pass it over here to this teammate, or he might have a couple more teammates back here and a goalie, and he might decide, hey, I'm going to pass it back here, and then they pass it back here, and they kind of move the ball around. That's what professional soccer looks like. It'd be great if our kids learned to play like that. So that's the point of that circle. So anyway, here's my soccer field again. And so we got the half line, we have the circle, and now you know what the circle is for. Then we have what's called a 6-yard box. And inside of the 6-yard box is the goal. And the 6-yard box is basically just a box so that when there's a ball that goes out of bounds and there's a goal kick, that the goalie has a line that says, hey, you have to kick the ball from somewhere on this line. So the goalie could put the ball here, he could put the ball on the corner. Usually you see it on the corner because he's usually going to go to one side with it, but it doesn't have to be on the corner. He could just set it down wherever he wants on that line. And then, so that's called the 6-yard box because in professional soccer, it's 6 yards or 6 meters off the goal line. And then outside of that is a penalty box. And if a foul happens inside of the penalty box, there's a little mark here called the penalty mark. And the player who gets fouled inside the penalty box gets to take a penalty kick. Also, the goalie inside the penalty box, the goalie can use his hands. The goalie cannot use his hands outside of the penalty box. And usually the goalie has a lot of special rights when he's inside the penalty box. Like you're not allowed to just run up to him and, be rough on him or try to take the ball away from him and stuff like that once he has 2 hands on the ball. So that's the penalty box. So you're going to have a 6-yard box and a penalty box on the other side as well. And there's a goal that you're shooting at. Now, let's talk about the rule of offsides. This is probably the most confusing rule of soccer for most people. So we're playing X's versus O's. So let's say these are the 2 defenders of the X team. These are the 2 midfielders of the X team. And let's say they don't have a forward. So it's 5-on-5. And here are the O's. Now let's say the O's are advancing with the ball, and this is a sudden advantage that the O's are in. This O has the ball. That little black dot represents the ball. So if let's see, we got an O, so we got 5 to deal with. So let's say that this kid right here, he's like, hey, pass it to me. We're going to call him O number 1. O number 1 is onside. The offside rule is based on the idea that beyond the last defender, there's an imaginary line that you cannot cross and receive a pass. Now this is O number 2. O number 2 is offsides. O number 1 is not offsides. If O number 3 were to pass to O number 1, no problems. Even though this guy's offside, as long as he's not involved in the play, there's no violation. He can stand over there all he wants. He just can't receive a pass over there. So if O3 sends the ball to O1, or really the better thing to do would be for O3 to send the ball forward in front of O1, so O1 can run and get to the ball and then shoot from there and score. No problem whatsoever. But if let's say that O3 goes to send it to O1, but he accidentally sends it a little further this way. If O2 retreats, still no problem. But if O2, it's like oxygen. If O2 is to engage and start trying to play the ball, now the referee should blow the whistle and call an offsides, and it should be a free kick from right there for the X team. So being offside means that you're a cherry picker, you're hanging out beyond the last defender, doesn't include the goalie, the last defender, you're past the last defender, and then someone passes to you. So it's not just being offside, but it's being offside and having the ball passed to you is a violation, and it results in a free kick for the other team. Okay, let's see if that made any sense to you guys. Offsides, any questions from the 2 of you who are actually here for my riveting discussion of the offsides rule? It's okay to not ask questions. Just sit there like 2 little black iPhone screens. No question. Thank you, iPhone. I appreciate that. I guess that means I explained offsides pretty well. If you watch on, if you go on the YouTube, I'm sure there's a better animation on both sides. So we will be enforcing that rule from day one in U15. And are there any other questions that you guys have for any of the other things about U15 soccer? I think that's the last thing I was going to explain.
I don't think so. This has been perfect.
Perfecto. All right. Hopefully all the other U15 coaches that didn't come will watch this video and learn from your great feedback that I got. I'm so glad that you were here. One other thing, your uniforms are still not here, but I have some uniforms they sent me a couple weeks ago that were messed up, and I demanded that they do them correctly, and so they are sending them. I'm going to give you both sets of uniforms. The shorts and the socks aren't messed up, but the jersey had incorrect colors, and so I was kind of we paid $30 a uniform for these things, and so I said, hey, you know what? This is the most we've ever paid for uniforms. We expect them to be good. So whether or not the new ones will show up, they were supposed to be here on Friday. Hopefully they show up tomorrow or Tuesday. But Wednesday night, I'm going to give you whatever I got. So Wednesday night from 7 to 8, there will be a uniform pickup, and I will send that out via Remind as well. And at some point, the correct uniforms will get here, and we'll give those to the kids. All right. Well, y'all have a great Sunday night, and I will put these on our YouTube channel now for all the other coaches. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.